Chapter 486, No One Escapes. Golden Fragrance had originally never intended to call for help. Firstly, because she believed there were enough people, and secondly, because if her equipment dropped, she didn't want it falling into someone else's hands. Despite being in the same guild, when faced with good equipment, the trust between one another was almost obsolete. Chen Yahui had obviously thought about this, which was why he arranged it in such a way. He even hoped people from Herb Garden and Blue Brook Guild to be far away from them, let alone calling for assistance. The path he left would already be considered fairly out of the way. As a result, Chen Yahui was shocked when Golden Fragrance called for help. Even if it's Yi Chu. Even if deception was also very strong. They had over 20 people. Wouldn't calling for more assistance be over the top? Chen Yahui could tolerate if the two escaped again, but he found it hard to believe that the two couldn't be defeated. What happened? Chen Yahui wanted to find out what was going on, but the news Golden Fragrance sent didn't say much. She merely sent her marked location, calling for help. How could Golden Fragrance possibly have time to explain? The group of people's quick AoE attacks struck them dumb with astonishment. 12 people annihilated in under a minute, which meant a person was killed every 5 seconds on average. How long would sending this message take? By the time the message was sent, she would long be dead. Golden Fragrance saw Chen Yahui's questioning message, but she also saw the people rushing towards her like the wind. It was definite that replying to the message would cost her her life, so Golden Fragrance ignored the message to turn tail and run without hesitation. Run. Purely running away. She didn't have any routes of escape or acts of resistance, she just turned around and pressed the key to scurry straight forward. Before, the three great guilds had pursued Lord Grimm and Deception restlessly, but right at this moment, in a certain way, events had taken a great turn. When escaping, Yi Shu was rich in experience, so he was very skillful. Now that it's his turn to pursue, his ability was by no means weaker. In addition, Golden Fragrance and her group were only aiming to go forward and forward and forward. They didn't even observe their pursuer's action. They chose a running style that required the least amount of skill. Stun Bullet. 100 streams. Yi Shu and Deception each used a skill. Lord Grimm's bullet caught a player while Deception's water stream surged closely behind. The streams instantly formed into a water prison, which incapacitated the player. The imprisoned player was dazed. Although the water prison had caught him, in a way, it protected him as well. As long as the prison was up, he couldn't receive any damage. Before he could understand any of it, the people behind Lord Grimm and Deception were already charging forward. They attacked while they ran, so it didn't take long before the water prison was destroyed. The second wave of attacks thrusted him into the ground. After that, the mob only needed to throw out some random attacks to finish him off. The ghost floated in midair while its player watched with a stunned expression as the mob rushed over his corpse. It was as if his consciousness was still lingering in confusion back at the water prison. The time they had passed only felt like the blink of an eye before he was sent off to float into the sky. Yet, the opponent's footsteps didn't slow down a fraction. As they stomped over his corpse, they managed to shorten the distance between themselves and the escaping players ahead. A lot of offensive skills had a slight displacement effect, and these effects were faster than plain running. The pursuers skillfully utilized these skills, so while they killed the previous player, they weren't delayed at all. Another died. Golden Fragrance and her group didn't even dare to look back. They discovered the losses through the darkened names on their team list. They didn't have time to check who it was, they even hoped that the player sacrificed could perhaps help them earn a bit of time to escape. In a bright flash, a person's silhouette was instantly formed, right in the center of Golden Fragrance's group. Teleportation. An actual teleportation, which was an electric-type elementalist skill. An elementalist teleporting into a group of people would usually be considered an act of suicide. However, Golden Fragrance and her group were desperate to escape, so all they thought was, Minnesota, they have caught up. As they thought, the elementalist's teleportation wasn't an act of suicide. The staff lifted as it made cracking sounds. A few sheets of ice walls immediately formed behind the elementalist. The people trapped within the ice walls panicked. They threw whatever skills they could afford towards the ice walls. Unfortunately, the delay was enough for the people behind them to catch up. Shadow cloak. Double flying hands. This time, Yi Shu coordinated himself with the grappler. The 6 people whom were stopped by the ice wall were instantly gathered together by the skills of Yi Shu and the grappler. Under the blast of AoE skills, it was without a doubt another textbook type of AoE combat style. There was little to no time difference from when the first, 5th or last person fell down. In addition, the remaining energy waves from the attacks happened to break the ice walls in time. After finishing off the 6 people, they continued their pursuit. The ice walls didn't bring them any inconvenience. We've lost another 6. There were only 6 people remaining in Golden Fragrance's group. From that moment on, even the number of people's advantage was overturned. Lord Grimm's group have 7 people in total, besting their group by 1 person. Although the cleric from before didn't have much use after healing Lord Grimm. Everyone, run in separate directions, Golden Fragrance yelled. The 6 people's sacrifice finally helped them gain a bit of time. A crossroad appeared before them. Even though someone would be doomed after splitting up, at least it was a good plan to prevent a team wipe. The 6 people's avatars on the team list darkened simultaneously, evident that they were wiped out through the use of AoE skills. Golden Fragrance and her group were already very deeply afraid of Lord Grimm's mob of AoE techniques. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, why aren't we at the intersection yet? The intersection that no one cared about before now seemed impossible to reach in their eyes. In their hearts, everyone in the group resented that they didn't have wings. Nearly there. Finally, they reached the intersection. The 3 forked roads glowed with hope. They didn't have time to distribute themselves into groups, so everyone chose a random fork in the road. The remaining 6 people prepared to run towards the hope in their hearts. However, they caught a flash of shadow. The 2 silhouettes which brought them fear and annoyance instantly appeared before them. Lord Grimm, deception. The cause of what had happened. The beginning of all nightmares. At such a crucial time, the 2 became their obstacles. Deception made a seal and a shadow dance started again. Instantly, the shadow who blocked the road split into who knows how many? The shadow clones, which flew out of Shadow Dance, attacked the 6 people and restricted their movements. Lord Grimm was on the side making matters worse for the 6 people. Those who didn't get restricted enough would immediately receive their lesson. The Berserker's helpers arrived soon after. Since they had been faced with the final 6 people, they didn't use the AoE method again. Everyone had one opponent to fight. Miss Golden Fragrance managed to survive till now. As long as she used her aerial cannon without error, she still had quite an advantage in running away. Unfortunately, her advantage was non-existent now because the opponent she had to face was Lord Grimm. Normally, Golden Fragrance would be happy to tease a level 52 player and feel all high and mighty. However, now that she knew of her opponent's identity, Golden Fragrance didn't have a teasing mood or attitude. What sort of good equipment do you have? Yi Shu asked, as if he were a hijacker. Golden Fragrance had died twice today and dropped 2 pieces of equipments, both of which were orange. Even if she was one of the guild's core members, she felt pained over the loss of her equipment. Core members of guilds were still far from a pro gamer's situation, where orange equipment was regarded as basic gear. Now that the bandit who targeted her equipment was blocking her once more, Golden Fragrance truly wanted to cry. Not only was she not going to get her equipment back, but now she would lose another piece of hers. Golden Fragrance looked left and right, and saw that her other 5 teammates had battled into a mess. At this point, she had to fight with all she had, because no matter how one looked at it, they were the ones being surrounded. The great god Yi Chu bullies me, a girl. Is it meaningful? Golden Fragrance asked. Hee, sorry about that, Yi Shu replied. Golden Fragrance was about to say something else, but Yi Shu had already sent a smiling emoji along with, I will be more aware next time. After Lord Grimm sent this sentence, he rushed forward. Golden Fragrance was surrounded in the center, so she had nowhere to escape to. In addition, with someone as skilled as Yi Shu, she was caught before she even took 2 or 3 steps. Golden Fragrance's struggle merely proved her existence, to let people know that her character was under her control and not a block of wood. Golden Fragrance was depressed. Why was this god picking on her so much? If it was someone other than him or Deception who was intervening her escape, she could have had a chance to escape. Golden Fragrance wasn't the only one with this thought. The players who didn't encounter the two strong players had a spark of anticipation in their hearts. The anticipation quickly became hope. After fighting with Lord Grimm's helpers, they realized that although they were strong, it was not to the point where they have no hope. The four people became energized and began to oppose fiercely. In order to hold them up, Lord Grimm's four helpers fought head-on. They even received damage they could have been avoided. Golden Fragrance's group observed. At this rate, they had a chance. Not only might they escape, they could also turn the other group into corpses. Little did they know that at this moment, a ray of white light would shower onto the elementalist. Soon afterwards, the white light flashed towards the other players. The people coughed up blood. As they looked around, they realized that the opposing team's cleric had just arrived. Only now did they remember that they also had a cleric. As for their own team, they no longer had a cleric. Their cleric had already been killed by the opposing side. No wonder Lord Grimm's group blocked them with such hardness. Under the assistance of a cleric, they had no reason to hold back. This was a very logical and sensible tactics choice. As the group had feared, they had no hope. The mob was in complete despair. At this very moment, a band of players appeared on a crossing that led off from the road ahead. Chapter 487, What's the Situation? Chen Yahui was a veteran with many years of experience in battles. Even though he wanted to know the details from Golden Fragrance, seeing how he didn't receive any response, he immediately knew that the situation wasn't looking good. The situation had already deteriorated to the point that she didn't even have time to reply. How had Yi Chu and Deception forced the team into such a position? Chen Yahui was astonished, but he couldn't slip up. The very first thing he did was tell this information to Arasema and Changing Spring. What? How'd they get there? The two guild leaders were very surprised. They hadn't known that Chen Yahui had intentionally let them slip through the encirclement. According to their original plan of shrinking the encirclement, their two targets may have escaped, but they shouldn't have been able to escape without anyone noticing. Following this logic, because the two guild leaders hadn't received any news, the two guild leaders thought that Lord Grimm and Deception were still trapped inside their circle. Their encirclement had shrunk and shrunk. Their two targets would have to appear soon. The two guild leaders couldn't help but begin to feel excited, until Chen Yahui told them the news. They looked at the map and the coordinates were a good distance away from their encirclement. Who knows how they got out? More importantly, one of my teams is currently fighting with them. Do any of you have troops nearby? Chen Yahui was extremely cunning. As soon as he realized the situation wasn't good, while not knowing the details, he wasn't going to run in blindly. First, he was going to have these two guilds probe the situation. Chen Yahui completely tricked the other two guild leaders. Neither of them thought too much of it. Let me see, the two replied and immediately called out to their respective guilds. I have one team here, Arasema quickly said. Have your players hurry and assist them. Our backup will be there soon. Chen Yahui said. We have to create another encirclement. How troublesome. Arasema was still confused as to what was going on. He thought Lord Grimm and Deception were still using hit-and-run guerrilla warfare tactics. As for Golden Fragrance, her side was in a tragic situation. Chen Yahui hadn't received any confirmation, but he was certain of it. However, he didn't tell the two of them. Sure enough, Yi Chu was out for revenge against Excellent Dynasty. Excellent Dynasty really is trash though. We're not going to be able to catch them here like this. Arasema thought. He was happy to see Excellent Dynasty's players being attacked, but he was starting to get impatient. Street intersection. Golden Fragrance and her 5 allies weren't able to hold on any longer. However, this time, they weren't gathered together and swept away in one wave like the others. As a result, it took some time for the situation to worsen. As their first ally fell, a group of players appeared at the intersection. That group of players saw the commotion going on here and hastily ran over. Golden Fragrance and her allies were at first happy, but soon, they realized that the support was only made up of half a team's worth of players. Their hopes immediately dwindled. Let alone half a team, a whole team wouldn't be enough in front of them. But these new arrivals weren't aware of this. They charged forward aggressively. As they got closer, they were able to see that they were members of Herb Garden. Most of the teams participating in this activity were made up of 5 players. This team wasn't an exception. After receiving personal orders from their guild leader, they quickly arrived at the designated location. They hadn't reached the location yet, but when they saw the huge commotion at the intersection. This desolate level 55 leveling area shouldn't have anyone inside, so what else could a commotion mean? This was why the 5 players didn't wait to see what the situation was before rushing forward. When they got closer, they noticed Lord Grimm's and Deception's names. Apart from them, there were 10 others. It was clear who had the advantage in numbers. The 5 players excitedly came over, but as they got nearer, they suddenly realized that something wasn't quite right. The 10 other players didn't seem to be surrounding Lord Grimm and Deception and fighting them. There seemed to be 2 teams fighting. What's going on? The captain of this 5-man team shouted in surprise. Soon afterwards, he saw the excellent Dynasty players fall and the ones who killed them didn't have a guild tag next to their names. These killers picked the dead clean. Next, they headed towards this 5-man team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The captain counted the number of people heading towards them. They had 7 people, 2 more than their group. Plus, with Lord Grimm and Deception, 2 exceptional experts, how were they supposed to win? Hurry and run. The 5 players had been a bit slow at first, but this time, they acted nimbly. Without even asking or trying, they turned tail and ran. The captain hastily sent his guild leader a message, "They have a lot of people." 7. This message was sent out at the cost of his life. It had only been 7 words, but it was enough time for the enemies to arrive and surround him. Editor note: 10 words is correct because in Chinese, including punctuation, it's 10 characters total. You guys go ahead. The captain was very heroic. As soon as he saw that there was no chance for him to escape, he let out a line straight from a drama and then died as a sacrifice for his teammates. He died. After making his final cry, he didn't do anything else. The captain felt like he was a piece of straw and the enemies were like a swarm of locusts. The locusts swept over him. He was merely a lone piece of straw. Soon, they ate him clean. F***CK. What's going on? The captain's ghost flew up into the air and then looked down. The 7 wolves pounced onto his other teammates. Why are they doing this? Why are they so enthusiastic? The captain was planning on waiting for a cleric to arrive and revive him, but because of this, he had to watch a tragedy unfold. His other 4 teammates weren't able to actually escape like in the movies just because he said, "You guys go ahead." The locust-like mob of 7 chased after them and used their instant movement skills to block their path. And then there was a fight. A fight between blades and words. The 4 poor teammates weren't able to do anything but curse. They quickly fell under their opponent's hands and then became 4 corpses on the ground. Their ghosts floated into the air. Ghosts weren't able to see each other though, but because their corpses were still there, it meant their ghosts were there too. What? 7. Chen Yahui and Arasema received the news at nearly the same time. Golden Fragrance had been killed off, so she now had time to report to Chen Yahui. As for that captain, he died soon after she did. 7 people. What's going on? Arasema asked Chen Yahui. Chen Yahui wasn't going to reveal anything. I only just got the information too, Chen Yahui replied. The previous reports didn't say this. They only asked for help. Arasema didn't say anything further. It wasn't the time to bicker. Apart from Lord Grimm and Deception, who else could there be? The 2 guild leaders asked the same question. I don't recognize them. I didn't recognize the other 5 of them. They have no guild tags and I've never seen their names before either. Their responses were the same. Chen Yahui suddenly shivered in fear because he suddenly remembered that Yi Chu had gathered a group of incredible experts around him. All of them were at the pro level and were likely to be a part of his pro team. Golden Fragrance's detailed description of their opponent's strength only helped to confirm Chen Yihui's suspicions. To be able to completely suppress the top guilds through their explosive strength indicated that even if they weren't at a pro level, they weren't far from it. A lightning-like offense required exceptional levels of coordination, the sort of cohesion seen at a pro level. This was the only way such a display of strength could be made. Could their troops block these types of players? 12 players killed in 1 minute. This meant that against their current strategy, using small teams to stop them would only be crushed through their opponent's brute force. 3 players against Lord Grimm and Deception resulted in a team wipe. 5 players against Lord Grimm and Deception resulted in 2 deaths and their escape. Now that they were against 7 players, how many troops did they need to send out? Even 25 players wouldn't be their opponent. If they couldn't kill them, then they couldn't stop them. Stall for time? 1 or 2 people could stall for time because 1 or 2 people had a limited amount of killing power. However, against 7 people, if they attacked twice, focusing on one target, they would be able to kill the target. In addition, with their mobbing strategy, stalling for time and dying was basically the same thing. What should we do? What should we do? Chen Yihui felt a headache coming, but Arasema and Changing Spring didn't know that the opposing side had only killed half a team of players. It wasn't any surprise 5 players stood no chance against 7. The other side had Lord Grimm and Deception, 2 exceptional experts, and had a numbers advantage. Of course, it would be a one-sided battle. Small teams combine and form full teams as individual units. Hurry! The 2 guild leaders ordered. A full team was 10 players. Before, it had been 5 players as a unit. Now, they were going to increase the unit size to 10 in order to fight back. They might be thinking they can kill us off one at a time. We have to hurry and gather our troops together. Don't have them reveal themselves. Wait for the enemies to enter our attack range and wipe them out in one swoop, Arasema and Changing Spring discussed. Sounds good. Chen Yihui was the one to agree. He already knew how strong the enemy team was, so he hoped for Arasema and Changing Spring to experience it for themselves. In reality, despite having a pro team above them, the guilds rarely had a chance to experience their team's strength for themselves. Sometimes, their guild would have a spar with the pro players, but that was just for fun. No one took it seriously. East-West 3rd Street, heading west, a report informed. Don't rush in rashly. Wait for them to move deeper into our range. Good, they're going into our previously formed circle. Our encirclement hasn't been completely broken up yet, Arasema ordered delightedly. Yeah, Chen Yihui agreed, while sending out a message to his teams. His orders consisted of only half of Arasema's, don't rush in rashly. Wait for my orders. Chapter 488, Lure the Enemy in Deep. East-West 3rd Street. The system couldn't generate a name for every street and alleyway in every town and city, so online maps outside of Glory often use this sort of naming method to mark out unnamed locations. From a direction and distance perspective, this naming method was more intuitive than coordinates. When an experienced Glory player heard these names, he'd know the general location. By using this information along with the coordinates received, finding the exact location became easier and faster to find. At this moment, on East-West 3rd Street in a narrow alley going from north to south, a team of Herb Garden players began to retreat. This was a full team of 10 players. The captain was called Orabanche, the name of an herb. Herb and plant names were commonly seen in Herb Garden, especially among the senior guild members. Nowadays though, because of Herb Garden's fame and strength, Herb Garden wasn't going to refuse a fan for not having an herb name. Many Herb Garden players had herbs as names, but not all of them did. Orabanche sent a message to Arasema telling him that their team had retreated. We're not going to attack, Captain, one of the team members asked. The guild leader told us to wait. Once they get closer, we'll surround them, Orabanche explained. Okay. No one objected. Their opponents had 7 people on their team, while they had 10. Even though they had a slight advantage in number, their opponent's team had Lord Grimm and Deception, both exceptional experts. Whether or not they could win was a completely different matter. All of them were veterans and very well knew their own limits, so none of them arrogantly declared they would take their opponents down for sure. It would be better to wait until more backup arrived before surrounding them together. There was a limit to skill. Even if your opponents were pro players with godly skill and amazing equipment, if you had a lot more people on your side, you'd eventually win. A numbers advantage would always be a reliable advantage in the game. The team of 10 sat in the alley quietly. "Captain," you said. Suddenly, the light seemed to have dimmed all of a sudden. The team lifted their heads up. 2 people were standing outside of the alley, blocking the sunlight from coming into the alley. "See, I told you there would be people here." The person on the left spoke. The ID above his head spelled out Lord Grimm. "If these people had been equipment, I definitely would have seen them." The person on the right denied his inability. The ID above his head spelled out deception. "You can see equipment on the ground, but you can't see equipment on someone's body." "What's up with that?" Lord Grimm lifted up one of his hands. "Shut up." Deception drew his blade. A grenade rolled over, and a wave of fire blasted towards them. Hand grenade. Flame cut. They had just passed the street, but then quickly came back. The team, which had been quietly sitting in the alleyway, wasn't prepared at all. Yishu and Deception chatted and moved quickly, immediately covering the alley in smoke and light. Captain Orabanche had been closest to the entrance of the alleyway and took severe damage. Collapsing mountain. Lord Grimm and Deception suddenly crouched. A berserker flew over their heads with his huge sword held high above his head. The sword crashed down with a might that could split mountains. Ice wall. Several ice walls shot up in the alleyway. The alleyway was very narrow. It wasn't easy to get 2 people to stand shoulder to shoulder with each other. A single ice wall would be enough to block the alleyway, but instead there were 4. This wasn't like dominoes. If one fell, the other walls weren't going to fall down too. They would have to break each wall one at a time. How long would that take? There were also 7 enemies. They were blocking the alley entrance. Plus, they could throw whatever skills they wanted at them. With such little space to move around in, where were they supposed to run? It was impossible to escape. Orabanche's team was like a stuck monster. They could struggle all they wanted to, but they wouldn't be able to find a way out. They tried to squeeze their way out, but Lord Grimm simply repelled them with a falling flower palm. Magic spells rained down on them from above and they didn't even know where the enemy elementalist was. After a short moment, there were 3 shattered ice walls and 10 corpses lying in the alley. Whether they waited for someone to revive them or whether they revived back at the city wasn't something Yishu's team cared about. They picked up the dropped items and gold before heading north through the alley. What did you say? Why didn't you hide better? Arisema received the news. Orabanche felt wronged. Hide better? Our original orders were to actively look for Lord Grimm. Then, after discovering that Lord Grimm had a team, you told us not to make any rash movements and to await further instructions. Where are they heading? Arisema asked. Towards the north. Coordinates XXX, XXX, Orabanche replied. This alleyway was so small, the outside maps didn't even have a name for it. Those near coordinates XXX, XXX. Pay attention to the north side. If you see Lord Grimm's team, lure them in deep, Arisema ordered and told the information to Changing Spring and Chen Yahui. The guild teams were still looking at the map after studying these coordinates, when Yishu's team rushed out from the small alleyway. When Yishu's team looked around, they didn't see anyone around. This way, Yishu's Lord Grimm led the way. Not long after heading left, another alleyway heading north appeared. Lord Grimm and the other 6 went in. This time, after going through the narrow alleyway, they saw a team of 10 players. This team was from Blue Brook Guild. Did the guild matter though? Clearly not. The 7 players charged forward and attacked. This team of 10 was still digesting the orders given to them. Who would have thought their mission would suddenly land on top of their heads? They hadn't even figured out how they were going to position everyone, when Lord Grimm bound them together with a shadow cloak and threw them onto the streets. F***CK. The team cried. If they were going to be so violent, where was the need to fake it? They turned their heads and immediately began running. They were truly luring their enemies in deep. Who would dare call them out for acting fake? They truly were putting everything they had into running for their lives. Unfortunately, they weren't able to escape. 6 of them tried to head inwards to hide, but were quickly caught and killed. Yi Shu saw the direction these 6 were heading towards and was forewarned. He took his team in the opposite direction, while figuring out how to head north and break out of the trap. I lost a team too. Changing Spring shared the same losses as everyone else. Where did they head? Arasema quickly asked. After hearing this, they saw the map and became silent. Looking at their direction, they were heading in the opposite direction from their encirclement. If they kept heading north, they would break out of their range and escape. Hurry! Hurry up and pull back! Pincer them from both sides, Arasema shouted, while ordering his subordinates. Changing Spring was more calm. Didn't these 2 teams die a bit too quickly? Only now did Arasema realize that he had ignored this issue. How had a full team of 10 players die so fast? Who are those 5 people? Arasema and Changing Spring both had a team die to them. Now they were at the same level of understanding as Chen Yahui. These 5 weren't just random players. No guild. We don't recognize their names either. The 20 players who had died didn't know. What were their classes then? Changing Spring asked. It would be easier to figure out who these experts were after narrowing down their options. Their intelligence network was spread far and wide. They had information on all of the experts in the heavenly domain. Chen Yahui hadn't asked this question because he already had a feeling that he knew their identities. Did their classes really matter? Anyone at the pro level could play any class far better than ordinary players. Pro players wouldn't only know how to play their own classes. You had to know yourself and know your enemies thoroughly in order to win. If you didn't know your opponent's class well, how were you going to win? Berserker, Cleric, Elementalist, Battle Mage, Grappler, Arasema and Changing Spring got a list of their classes. By narrowing the options, they could figure out the origin of this class composition. The report quickly came back. Heavenly Justice's 5 experts played these 5 classes. Heavenly Justice. The first to receive the information was Changing Spring. Ah, you've figured it out, Arasema said. Heavenly Justice? Chen Yahui was very surprised when he heard this answer. Wasn't Heavenly Justice planning on entering the pro scene? Changing Spring said. I've talked with them before. Their skill isn't ordinary. I tried to pull them in before, but I wasn't successful. Now I know the reason why, Arasema said. I haven't seen them in action for a long time though, so I don't know how strong they really are, Changing Spring continued. He had tried to do the same thing as Arasema before. But if they dare to enter the pro scene, they can't be bad, no, Chen Yahui said, while thinking. He connected Heavenly Justice's experts with the hidden experts inside the internet cafe across the street from them. To think Heavenly Justice would act against us first, Arasema said. Heavenly Justice? Do you have proof? These are open accounts, Changing Spring said. They went silent. Open accounts were used so that no one would be able to recognize the person using it. This was why top guilds had so many of them. Against such a team, 10 people isn't going to be enough. Hurry up and call everyone together, Arasema hastily said. Already done, Changing Spring replied. On the streets, a team of 7 was running around. What are we going to do next? The Berserker spoke in a much more respectful tone to Lord Grimm compared to how Deception spoke to him. They have an encirclement set up. Right now, we have to hurry and run along the perimeter and break through. We're not going to attack them face to face, so they won't be able to make use of their number advantage. Chapter 489, The enemy closes in, while we back out. Oh, like that huh? The Berserker heard Yi Shu's reply and felt like he had a certain level of understanding now. How did you figure out their formation? The Berserker asked again. It took me a lot of observation and analysis. Afterwards, I made a judgment based off of their team's distances, movement direction, and the empty spaces on the map, Yi Shu said. You can even do that? The Berserker was surprised. Deception had heard all of this before. In the beginning, he hadn't believed it either, but after running around with Lord Grimm for a while, he slowly realized that Lord Grimm truly did have an understanding of the enemy's positions based on how the players move. Lord Grimm didn't know everything, of course, but it wasn't something deception could do. We have to learn from him well, the berserker told his comrades. Changing Spring's deduction was correct. These 5 players were indeed from Heavenly Justice. The berserker was Lulan Slash. The battle mage was Little Bei. The grappler was Night Tide. The elementalist was Ocean Ahead. The cleric was Thousand Falling Leaves. Yi Shu had told them to come over to practice. Lulan Slash's group was planning on joining the pro scene. Practice was a must. The equipment issue could be solved some other way. Yi Shu didn't ask about this. He reckoned Lulan Slash wouldn't be so confident that he would think the heavenly domain equipment he had equipped would be good enough for the pro scene. Lulan Slash didn't tell him what they were going to do about it, so Yi Shu wasn't even going to ask. In any case, an individual's skill in the coordination between a team could always be improved. Especially after fighting with Yi Shu, Huang Shaoxian, and Wang Jiaxi, Lulan Slash's group had already completely dispelled their initial overambitious thoughts. Their goal the first year in the pro scene had changed to defending their spot in the alliance. Defending their spot meant not falling into the bottom 2 places, which would be auto-relegated. A team joining the pro scene and then dropping out after their first year wasn't anything new. Lulan Slash's group felt scared just thinking about it. If they hadn't met Yi Shu, with their initial confidence, thinking they could immediately become the champions, they would probably fall to last place and be relegated. Improve. Lulan Slash's group only had this thought in their heads now. They weren't there to have fun in the pro scene. They weren't fans like Chen Guo, who would just be happy to have the experience. They were there to make a name for themselves. After learning that Yi Shu was actually God Yi Chu, Lulan Slash's group obviously wanted to learn from him. As a result, Yi Shu called them over to come when he saw such a big scene unfolding. Although this scene wasn't something that would ever be seen in pro matches, it was still a good opportunity to practice team coordination. Having the chance to spar with other pro players wasn't something that could just be asked for. When they arrived at the scene, the lightning-fast offense led by Yi Shu shocked not just Golden Fragrance and their enemies, but them too. They already felt like they had learned a lot so far. Who didn't know how to group up monsters and kill them in one burst? But to do this to such an extent wasn't something anyone could do. So this was a pro. Lulan Slash thought. This also made them realize that if they wanted to survive in the pro scene, they would need such a level of strength. However, if Yi Shu wasn't there to lead them like this, Lulan Slash wasn't confident that he could do the same. They were quite proficient with their own classes, but their knowledge on the synergy, skill combinations, and skill usages between the different classes couldn't compare to Yi Shu's. Record it? Record it all, Lulan Slash whispered privately to his team members. Of course. I've been recording this entire time, Ocean Ahead replied. We'll need to study this when we're done and then we'll go practice, Lulan Slash said. While talking, the 7-player team encountered a Blue Brook Guild team. When the team of 10 guild players saw these 7 players, they immediately turned pale and turned tail. This time, it was real. They weren't trying to lure the enemy in deep or anything. This was because they already had orders that any team with 30 or fewer players was to immediately escape. These 7 players were regarded as having the strength of 30 guild players by the guild leaders. Even with this, they weren't sure. They were striving for a group of 100 players before engaging in battle. Slowly, the 3 guild leaders had already forgotten about hunting them. To their understanding, this was a confrontation between 2 equal powers. They would organize their strength and face their opponents. Knowing the difference between their skill levels, the 10-player team turned tail and ran for their lives. The 7 players had no way of blocking them. Are we going to chase them? Lulan Slash asked. Follow them, Yi Shu said. The 7 players chased after the 10 runners. Pay attention to my pacing while moving, Yi Shu said. Everyone began paying attention to Lord Grimm's movements. The 10-player team only had thoughts of widening the distance as much as possible and didn't hold anything back. Seeing the 7 players shrinking in the distance, their hearts calmed down a little bit, but not long afterwards, the 7 players appeared behind them again, hanging around neither too far nor close to them. The 10-player team tried to sprint away again, but they realized they didn't have enough stamina. Without stamina, they couldn't sprint and their running speed would drop. Starting from here, the 7 players drew nearer and nearer. "They're coming." The 10-player team cried for their lives and spammed their coordinates in the guild chat. "Hang on." The guild players could only reply. It would still take them time to arrive and help them. "They're getting closer. Even closer." The 10-player team was in complete chaos. The enemies were getting closer and closer in front of their eyes and there was nothing they could do but await their pitiful demise. It was a feeling even more terrifying than death. "No good. Our support won't arrive in time." The captain of the 10-player team looked around left and right. Apart from the 7 enemies clawing closer and closer to them, there was no one else in sight. "What do we do?" one of the members mourned. "Log off," the captain decided. "Ah," one of the team members gasped. "If not, we'll die for nothing." Our other team wasn't weak either, but they didn't even last a minute, the captain hastily explained. "Then let's hurry up and log off. They're about to get in range," another team member shouted. Following afterwards, the 10 players disappeared. They had logged off beautifully. "No way?" The 7 were completely stunned, even Yi Shu. None of them expected their opponents to log off. "Head east." At this moment, Yi Shu didn't delay and immediately shouted out an order. The team switched directions from heading north to east. Why? As long as there was a chance, Lulan Slash would always ask why so he could grasp Yi Shu's way of thinking. "Our opponents have probably figured out our battle strength, so they're probably gathering together. If we continue to go down that path, we'll probably encounter a huge team. It's better to turn back for now," Yi Shu explained. The 7-player team headed east. At the same time, the 3 guilds completely lost track of their position. By gathering their troops together, they would obviously lose control over the area. If the previous team had died, their ghosts would still be able to monitor them for a bit. However, because this team logged off, they now had no idea which direction the 7 had run off in. A short moment later, the 3 guilds gathered all of their troops together and then stood there stupidly. Where was Lord Grimm? No idea. Where was that team? No idea. F***CK. That's too cunning. Arisema was pissed. After learning that their opponents had Heavenly Justice's 5 experts too, the prey had become the hunter and their guilds became the targets. This was why they had hastily changed plans, but once their opponents got close to them, they suddenly turned passive again and hid. Now what were they going to do? It wasn't going to be possible for them to scatter around the map again. If they did, they would all become meat buns. The animals eating weren't dogs either, but were really wolves. Should they continue maintaining these huge teams? They had too few units and too little control over the area. Their opponents would be able to escape easily. The 3 guilds were in a difficult predicament. It seemed like there was only one option in front of them, to give up on the operation. They weren't willing to. They had put so much effort and manpower and it was just going to end like this? The 3 guild leaders had this type of remorse. They felt like they were in the 10th server once again, where they were helpless under Lord Grimm's hands. The heavenly domain was supposed to be completely different, but in reality, was it just the same? The other guilds, Chen Yahui suddenly thought. They're probably sitting there eating popcorn, Arisema sighed. With a good opportunity to kill Lord Grimm, they hadn't hidden the information away and actively shared it. However, the 3 guilds had been the first to arrive at the scene and after seeing such a commotion, the other guilds sat back to watch the show instead of joining. The 3 guild leaders definitely understood this. They would have done the same too. Killing Lord Grimm would benefit everyone, so there was no need to compete to do it. As a result, everyone was very nice about it. I refuse to have it end like this, Changing Spring roared, but what could they do? Keep adding troops? Changing Spring thought. Chen Yahui took off his headphones and then picked up the cell phone on his desk. Yi Chu is currently in the game. He's leading those Heavenly Justice guys who are claiming they'll be joining the pro scene next season. They're showing off their strength. Lu Hao had taken the call and then turned his head to explain the situation. HMPH them. They're nothing special, Sun Shang coldly said. However, the guild players aren't enough, Lu Hao said. I heard they only have a total of 7 players on their team, but they were easily able to kill off a full team. I can kill off a team of normal players on my own, Sun Shang sneered. Ha ha, of course, Lu Hao said, I happen to have a few accounts on hand. Let's give them a little surprise. Oh, Sun Zhang's eyes suddenly lit up, that sounds fun. Chapter 490, Team Excellent Era. Here's a Battle Mage account card. A trace of treachery flashed across Lu Hao's face as he handed an account card to Sun Shang. In fact, before Sun Shang even came to Excellent Era, he hadn't used a Battle Mage. However, his Battle Mage was also very good. After obtaining one Autumn Leaf, some people speculated that Sun Shang had planned on succeeding Yi Chu long beforehand. Why else would he put in so much effort to train his Battle Mage? If he really planned on snatching the name of Battle God, then Sun Shang was truly an ambitious fellow. Right now, they were using open accounts, so even if Lu Hao had given Sun Shang his original class, Sun Shang would still be able to perform at a high level as well. However, Lu Hao still gave him a Battle Mage account, a class Sun Shang had only officially taken out halfway through his first season. It could be said that Lu Hao had a good grasp of Sun Zhang's personality. If he gave Sun Shang his original class, Sun Shang might be able to perform well, but with his arrogant and confident personality, he definitely wouldn't take it well and might even become angry. It would be implying that he didn't have confidence in Sun Zhang's Battle Mage. Making such an action might rub him the wrong way. Sun Shang was impatient in proving his Battle Mage could succeed Yi Chu's. In the All-Star competition, he challenged Excellent Era's sworn enemy and Yi Chu's longtime rival Han Wenqing. However, it resulted in a loss by the slightest of margins. However, for him, the result was completely humiliating, especially after Han Wenqing declared in front of everyone how he couldn't even compare to Yi Chu. Sun Shang had lost, so he couldn't refute it. He hadn't lost his poise in front of the public at that time either. Only his teammates knew just how furious Sun Shang was after the match. His mentality had been affected for several days in a row. Those who tried to console him only seemed to make it worse by striking the nail in deeper. Now, it motivated him to try even harder to prove his strength and directly make Yi Chu and Han Wenqing concede. Yi Chu was now playing in game. It was just in the game. With Sun Zhang's arrogant personality, he normally wouldn't put it in his eyes. However, in the previous spectacle, he had been there too. At that time, he had wanted to fight Yi Chu. Unfortunately, Yi Chu never gave anyone the chance to. After beating Huang Shaoshan, he ran off, making Sun Shang extremely upset. Lu Hao had seen all of this and immediately used this to his advantage today. When he handed over the Battle Mage account card to Sun Shang, Lu Hao called a few others together. Half of Team Excellent Era was headed by him. Do we need this many people? Sun Shang heard Lu Hao call others to come and coldly scoffed. Ha ha, this is for fun. Everyone should have some fun together. Lu Hao didn't dare be careless with his words, especially with Sun Shang. If not, Sun Shang wouldn't want anyone to help, which would completely mess up his plans. After hearing Lu Hao say this, Sun Shang didn't say anything further. Once everyone got together, they logged on. Their accounts were all max-level open accounts and were naturally in the heavenly domain. Lu Hao and Chen Yahui contacted each other and immediately organized this team. Their characters were close to each other in the beginning, so they quickly found each other. Battle Mage, Spellblade, Elementalist, Striker, Cleric. This was their team's class composition. When Lu Hao heard the opposing team had a Cleric, he didn't dare to be careless. Along with himself, the team had Sun Shang, He Ming, Shen Jian, and Zhang Jiaxin. Among them, He Ming had a position somewhere in between the main team and the substitute players. He was often the team's sixth player. The other four members were Excellent Era's main force. If Su Mucheng could be called in to help, they would have made the team that they used in official matches. Su Mucheng was obviously out of question. Plus, calling too many people would make it seem like he was scared of Yi Chu. Even though Lu Hao didn't mind being too careful, with Sun Shang there, he was afraid Sun Shang would be unhappy with it. 5 players was the standard for a team in competitive play anyways. He didn't think Sun Shang would object to that. Everything went as Lu Hao expected. Sun Shang coldly humphed, but didn't say anything else towards the team. Which way? Sun Shang wanted to hurry up and fight. Wilderness Town. I'm still trying to get an exact location, Lu Hao said, while telling Chen Yahui to use everything he had to find Yi Chu's position. Chen Yahui obviously complied. Yi Chu had already gathered an incredibly strong team together with him. For their guild, if they sent too few players to fight them, they wouldn't be opponents. If they sent too many, they wouldn't be able to maneuver around and would be stuck in place. Chen Yahui felt gratified for Lu Hao coming to help so readily. As a result, he quickly assembled a ready-to-die team and told them to do everything in their power to figure out Yi Chu's location. A ready-to-die team was essentially a suicide squad. Chen Yahui's suicide squad consisted of individual units. If they saw Yi Chu's team, they would certainly die. In any case, they were to try and run. Once they died and became corpses, they were to stay there and monitor them. In short, they would constantly update Chen Yahui with Yi Chu's position. By being made up of individual units, their scouting range would be enormous. Chen Yahui was willing to sacrifice his troops to achieve this. After organizing them together, he told them to hand over any important equipment they possessed to someone else for safekeeping. His message told them that the probability of dying was extremely high. This team was aware of this, and after receiving their orders, they immediately spread out. This method was truly effective. One of the players heading east quickly made a report. He had found the 7 players, who were running quickly. However, he didn't know their goal. Chen Yahui didn't care about their goal because the guild wasn't going to be the one to fight them. His objective was very simple, to find their position and report to Lu Hao. The first player to find the target was also quite lucky. He hadn't been discovered, but this also meant he would have to continue watching them until he died. This brother wouldn't be so stupid as to get too close. He watched from far away, but as a result, he couldn't see their IDs clearly. In the end, after seeing them make a turn, he ran over, but had already lost them. With his method of tailing, he would certainly lose them after a while. But by finding their general location, Chen Yahui organized the others to narrow their search to that area. Soon, a second player caught sight of them again. However, this brother wasn't as lucky and was discovered. After making a report, he valiantly sacrificed himself. Didn't you say they gathered all of their troops together? Why are we still bumping into random players out here then? They're alone too, Lulan asked after cutting this player down. They couldn't pinpoint our positions, so they probably sent out a ready-to-die team to find out our positions at the cost of their lives, Yi Shu said. Then we've been exposed already, Lulan said. For now, yes, but it's not like we're just going to stand there stupidly and do nothing, no, Yi Shu said. The 7 players continued moving ahead. Chen Yahui continuously received reports of their location from the sacrificed players. These 7 players just seemed to be wandering around randomly. He couldn't figure out their next step. Chen Yahui sent clerics over to revive them and then had them continue scouting. Whenever Chen Yahui received a set of coordinates, he would send them over to Lu Hao. Lu Hao and the other pro players quickly arrived in Wilderness Town. The randomly changing coordinates made them helpless too. They could only run towards the coordinates sent to them. Arasama and Changing Spring hadn't given up yet and had their huge army walk around through Wilderness Town and see if they could bump into them. The two would sometimes let out sighs. Chen Yahui didn't have the energy to deal with these two. He had 5 seniors from the team calling for him. After not seeing any results for a while, Chen Yahui was starting to get anxious, so he secretly sent more players to scout around. This time, 2 scouts found the opposing team simultaneously. With more scouts, the reports began coming in faster and Lu Hao's side now had a sense of direction to head in. Have you guys noticed something? Everyone we've killed so far has been from Excellent Dynasty, Little Bei suddenly spoke up. Really? Ocean Ahead replied lazily. It had always been one target at a time and the targets never showed any resistance either. They would run as soon as they were discovered. It felt so pointless now. In the beginning, it had been fun, annihilating team after team, but now it felt like the big feast was over and dessert was being given a tiny nibble at a time. Be careful, they've upped their scouting, Yi Shu said. Reinforcements must have come, so they have more players at their disposal. Yeah, don't get careless. Lulan was their Heavenly Justice's leader and was calmer than the others. Yo, there's a team over there, Little Bei suddenly realized. Ocean ahead heard this and grew excited. His character moved around in a circle, trying to find the enemy team. It's only 5 players, but after seeing the team, Ocean ahead couldn't hide his disappointment. It's still better than a single person, Little Bei shrugged. A simple matter nonetheless, Ocean ahead commented. Be careful, Yishu's voice was solemn though. Is it some sort of trap? Lulan asked. Be careful when facing them, Yishu didn't give a direct reply. The 5 players at the end of the street also saw the 7 players and immediately charged at them. Seeing this, the 7 players immediately felt like something wasn't right because their enemies had always ran for their lives as soon as they were discovered, even if they were a team of 10 players. However, it was just a 5-player team now, yet they were actually rushing forward instead of retreating. The enemy should have a grasp of their strength, but they still dared to do this. They can't be weak, Lulan concluded. Even if they're strong, how strong could they be? Ocean ahead asked. Could there be some sort of ambush lying in wait? The cleric, Thousand Falling Leaves, wondered. There shouldn't be any. The enemy has been trying to find our location this entire time, so they wouldn't have had enough time to set up an ambush, Yishu said. Which means they must be experts. Lulan turned serious. Good, Ocean ahead grew excited. This battle mage loved to fight.